Hey guys,
Hi, Dr. Moron.
how are you?
Good. How are you?
All right. Hey Sam.
Going on?
Yeah.
Hello Dell. I'm already recording.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm assuming we'll see a lot of students coming in, but can't guarantee it.
What's that?
I assume we'll see a lot of students come in because, this is after school. So I hope we see some people, but it's hard to know.
Yeah, we'll wait a few minutes here.
Okay.
Colin, you look familiar. Have you been in one of these things before?
Yeah, I did one like a couple months ago.
Yeah, you look familiar to me. Or your bed looks familiar. I don't know. I think you were under your bed last time too. Nothing wrong with that. That's okay. Be comfortable. Be comfortable.
Does anyone have any admissions related questions before we start? I know you're all accepted, so congratulations. That's one less thing to have to think about. And really, obviously we'd prefer to have you on campus. So if you have not come to visit campus yet, we do have tours available 6 days a week. We're open on Saturdays. So if that's kind of a deciding factor for you, feel free to come to campus. But then today really is about you figuring out, hearing from real students. I think it's really important. That's such an important part of the process, is getting to know people who are already in your major. Usually we host this event during the Hoop Hall, and 2 years ago we had a LeBron James sighting in Blake Arena at Springfield College, which was a really cool experience. And we would have obviously hoped to offer that to you. So in lieu of LeBron, we have Dr. Borland, which is, pretty like on the same level. But yeah, I would definitely encourage you to not hold back, like ask any questions that are on your mind. And don't leave here feeling like you didn't get to hear what you needed to hear. And thank you for being here. And feel free to get started. We can, if you want to start your recording.
I've started recording.
Okay.
So Chris, or Colin, you might have heard some of this stuff already. Kristen, have you been on with us before?
I haven't.
Okay, so I'm going to share the screen really quick, and the students are going to know all this stuff, but this will benefit Kristen. So hold on one second. This thing I can't minimize, but let me find the college catalog here. Okay, so Kristen, this is mostly for you because I think Colin may have heard me talk about this a little already. Oh, wait a minute. There's a quicker way to this, so let me just reshare here. So for the prospective students, just a little bit of background. My name's Dr. Borland, John Borland. I'm the director of the sport management program at Springfield College. I've been doing that for a couple of years. I've been at the college for 13 years. Sport management is the most popular program at the college. That brings some advantages and some disadvantages. The advantages are that we do get noticed by the upper administration a little bit more, because we do bring in a lot of tuition dollars, the program does. We have about 210 students in our program, so that's around 10% or 9% of the undergraduate student body at Springfield. Kristen, we do have females in our program. I've asked these guys to be here today, but that doesn't mean we don't have females in our program. It's probably around 12% of females in our program. So it's definitely a lot more males in our program, but that shouldn't deter you from wanting to be in the program, because that's pretty much the situation in most sport management programs. the good news is we'll learn your name a lot quicker than we learn the guys' names. A couple other things. These are the requirements for the curriculum. It's a 63 credit major. So as you can see, we do require accounting at the top there. Better, sometimes, and Phil can tell you this, he's taken some classes outside. And I don't know about Chris. Chris hasn't, I don't think. Chris, you haven't taken many classes outside our school, have you? And transferred them in?
No, the only credits I transferred in were from high school.
Okay. So it's not a bad idea, actually, if you can transfer accounting in. The class itself, I think the person that teaches it now, we don't control that one. That's taught over by the business management folks. So I can't always guarantee, that class is going to be a great experience. Sociology of sport is now taught by the physical education department, but by the time you guys get here, we'll be teaching it. And then these are the 100 level classes. So you can see there's a number designation on all these courses. So if it's a 100 level class, then you would typically take that in your first year. So Intro to Sport Management gets you really kind of ensconced in the major and letting you know, what some of the things are that are out there that you can do. It's a really important class to take. You have to take it anyway. It's not like you have a choice. These are all required courses. We don't have concentrations in our major, so you basically take all the courses. There's no sort of choice there. And I imagine other sport management programs will have concentrations and have electives and things like that. We just have decided that we want a really broad perspective for our students. So you would take everything. Dynamics of leadership, that's at the 100 level. Event management and promotions, all these guys have taken these classes. That's the Hoop Hall class. So you would do that your freshman year, your fall semester, your first semester, and you would work at the Hoop Hall. You actually come back in the spring semester very early. You get an incomplete in this class for the fall until you work the Hoop Hall, and then we grade you on your participation in the Hoop Hall. At the 200 level, customer hospitality is probably the hardest class there. I don't know how hard it is going to be. One of the people that teaches it will not be with us anymore. That person's going to be retiring. I teach communication and sport recreation. That class focuses a lot on, sharpening your oral and written communication. We have a sales course at the 300 level. So that's that SMRT 340 class. You actually do sell for a couple of organizations. Marketing after that, very important class. It's where you create demand, figure out how to create demand for organizations. Venue and personnel management. Sam's in that with me now. And Chris and Phil took that last spring with me. Practicum, I'll talk about that one in a minute. I'll come back to that. And then at the 400 level, there's a number of 400 level classes that you need to take. They're offered in both semesters, so you're able to take those with some flexibility. So one thing that I wanted to tell you guys about that are on, I see Tim is on as well. And I tell this to all students. So we've had a few transfer students come in that I've been meeting with over the last couple of days. We will give you in the curriculum 3 experiences, practical experiences. So the Hoop Hall at the freshman level, I feel bad for the freshmen this year. They didn't get to do the Hoop Hall, but they will get to do it eventually. Then at the 300 level, the practicum class, and these guys, I'll have them talk about their practica experience in a minute here. But that's a 120-hour internship. So you do work at an organization near campus typically, because you're taking 4 other classes at the time. So it kind of helps you with that time management aspect. And then the thing that these guys haven't done yet, but they will be doing it pretty soon, is the 12 credit internship. So it's a 540-hour internship where you go out and work for an organization for about 14 weeks, because that's usually what it works out to be. and you get that on your resume. It's really important. I'm sure you guys are looking at other colleges. One thing that I would caution you against is going to a college that only requires a 3-credit or a 6-credit internship, because typically you're just not getting enough practical experience. And as these 3 guys can tell you, they will, and they're going to tell you at some point, I'll stop talking, is you need that stuff on your resume if you're going to compete in sport management and go out there and get noticed for interviews, whether you're doing an interview for a job or whether you're doing an interview for an internship. You know, we have 200 students in our program, but there are a lot of sport management programs around the country. You know, and it's not just sport management kids, you know, kids who get that degree that want to work in sport. It's also kids with law degrees, you know, that want to be sports agents or, you know, representation. It's kids with business management degrees. It's kids with marketing degrees, you know, that want to do these things. So you're not going to be alone in what you do. One of the disadvantages of having such a popular program is one of the things they advertise on the Springfield College website is that we have a 14-to-1 ratio student to teachers. That's completely not true in the sport management department. You guys will always be in there with 24 to 25 other students in your classes. Typically, there will be some classes along the way where you maybe only have 10 to 15 kids in there, but that's an anomaly. Typically, that's not going to be the case. So I'm going to turn it over to these guys. First of all, you guys, if you could introduce yourselves. Sam, why don't you start? Just tell them where you're from, and also talk about your practicum and some of the other practical experiences that you have.
Sure. My name is Sam Bradshaw. I'm from Seymour, Connecticut. I'm a junior here in the sport management program. Jump on the practical experiences Dr. Borland mentioned. For my practicum, I work in the Office of Recruitment, Compliance, and Retention for the athletic office here on campus. That job included a lot of data logging and tracking of athletes' paperwork, make sure that they're submitting the correct NCAA guidelines papers, checking on their credits and grades, and making sure that they're staying up to date and they're eligible to compete. I also had to keep track of overnight forms and making sure that athletes were having the right amount of chaperones, student to athlete ratio, whatever you'd like to call it. And then COVID kind of threw a wrench in that last spring. So to culminate the rest of the hours that I had to make up, I did a project that logged all the data in terms of wins, roster size, number of seniors for the end of the year. Other practical or management related things that I've done with sport or recreation is I worked at a summer camp where I was an area director for 2 or 3 years. So I had a lot of boots on the ground experience in terms of managing my own time and managing an area in terms of recreation. And I was also a liaison and supervisor at the Hoop Hall Classic.
So what are you thinking about for internship? I know that we probably haven't discussed that yet, but I mean, where are you headed in terms of your areas of interest?
Right now, I'll be honest with you, I love to talk and I love to communicate. And I always have another great idea to share with my group, whether it be a project or just a topic on sports. So with that in mind, I'd say marketing is my big thing right now. And also, since I love to talk, I'd say sales is another big key point for me, especially in the corporate package division. Most recently, I've spoken to one of the alumni here, Jeff Farmer, the San Diego Padres, about what some of that includes. So right now, to sum it up, is sales, corporate partnerships, or marketing right now is the internship.
Okay. Chris and Phil. Chris, why don't you go first?
Hi, everyone. So my name is Chris Phelps. I'm a junior in sport management program from upstate New York, around the Saratoga area. So some of my practical experience, I've been an intern with the Springfield Thunderbirds. Unfortunately, not this year. They aren't playing this year. But last year I was a game night intern with them. So I was there on all game days, helping out with different promotional activities that they run. I was also, like Sam and Phil too, a supervisor for Hoop Hall. Me and Sam were actually, for our role last year, downstairs in the locker room area, helping to stock the locker rooms and making sure that when the teams arrived, their locker rooms were all good to go. And then for my practicum, I'm doing my practicum right now with Chicopee High School. It's mostly virtual because Chicopee's in kind of a red zone with COVID. So the athletic director said you can't really do in person right now. But I actually just had a meeting with him this morning, and we basically are just going over the different COVID protocols for student athletes there to actually play their spring sports. They're playing football this spring, which is interesting. And then some of the other things I'm doing is I'm just inputting the scores from the games into the Massachusetts high school sports website to verify all those scores, and helping out with like long-term logistical things. Like we're actually in the process of creating a sports camp at Chicopee High School. So I'm helping out with that as well.
What are you thinking about for internship? I know you're a year away, but I just wanted to, since you're my advisee, we're gonna have this discussion anyway in a few weeks, so.
Yeah, so, well, my internship would be this time next year. So I'm thinking about either going into sales or event management. I was actually talking to someone pretty recently who works with the Iowa Wild in their sales department. So that's a possibility. It's a bit of a far drive, but I'd consider it for sure.
Well, you'll have to stay there actually for a while. Yeah, Iowa would be very different than living in New England. Okay, Phil, what do you think?
Say again?
So go ahead. Sorry, I shouldn't say
Oh,
what do you
okay.
think. I should just say go ahead.
Hi, my name's Phil. I'm from Long Island, New York. I'm also a junior. Like Sam and Chris have mentioned, I've done hoop hall for 2 years. Unfortunately, it was canceled this past winter. My practicum was also with the Springfield Thunderbirds. Freshman year, I had interned with them for event operations, similar to Chris. And then sophomore year, I had done my practicum with them in merchandise. So what that was, on game nights, I would basically work in the store, keep track of inventory, stuff like that. And it was a lot of customer service and, communicating with the fans, making sure that they're having a good time. And then also throughout the week, I would go in and work with my boss to take in packages that came in, unbox stuff, count inventory every week. So a lot of organizational stuff, which was fun because I like that type of stuff. And other experience that I've done, one really cool one I did freshman year after the spring semester ended. I did it with Sports Business Journal. If any of you guys know what that is, they have an annual award ceremony for the top leaders in sport. And I went down to Times Square in New York City and worked the event there. And that was probably one of the coolest things I've done so far.
You're looking at maybe an internship this summer, is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. Right now I'm looking at the US Open for tennis in Flushing. And I'm waiting to hear back from someone I connected with. She's going to give me some names that I can further that process along with. But if that doesn't work out, I'm also looking at internships for the fall.
Okay. So those of you who are on the call that are been accepted students, I'm going to ask these guys a few questions that'll help you understand what it's like to go to school at Springfield. And then in about 12 minutes, I'm going to turn it over to you and see if there's any questions you want to ask of the students because that's why they're on here. And one thing that you'll notice about these three guys is they're incredibly motivated. And you're not going to be able to do well in this major unless you model what they're doing, which is why they're on here. You just can't make much progress in the internship area unless you have several things on your resume. This is not me telling you to go over a page on your resume, but you need to get some experiences while you're here. Again, we'll help you get 3 of those, but you're probably going to need to get another 3 on your own to add to that. So let's see, Chris, can you talk about what some of the classes are like? I mean, what's it like to be in the sport management major in our classes? What kind of experience has it been?
Sure. So, well, you kind of went over what all the classes were, but so you come in as a freshman, and the first 2 sport management classes you take are Intro to Sport Management and Event Management. I know Dr. Boron teaches one of those event management classes. So, Intro to Sport Management, I think, is really like the one class that will really show you whether this major is for you or not. I know Dr. Borland and other professors in the major have talked about this, but a lot of students come into the major and they think of sport management and they think, okay, I'm gonna get my degree in sport management, I'm going to be the next GM of the Red Sox. When that's, I mean, if that's your ultimate goal, that's great. But there's so many more like opportunities out there and so many different areas that honestly, like I wasn't aware about as a freshman, that intro class just kind of like walks you through all those different areas. It really like breaks down like how sport is like connected to every area of society. So I think that's a great class for like as a freshman to really, for you to figure out if this major is really for you or not. From there, in the spring, you take dynamics of leadership. I think that's the only sport management related class. And then you go into like your sophomore, junior year, some more specific like sport management classes. Some classes I've taken with like Dr. Boral, and I've taken communication in sport and recreation. One of the projects we had to do for that, we had to do a TED Talk. It was a 15, I think it was like 12 to 15 minutes. We weren't allowed like any notes or anything like that. We were allowed some slides, but they could only have like a few words or maybe a picture on there. We had to pretty much memorize everything just to help us like, hone our communication skills. And then I also took with Dr. Boral and the venue and personnel management class. And we had to do for us, it was like a 40 something page handbook about just how to.
By the way, he told me he enjoyed it.
I did. No, I legitimately did. I thought it was fun.
Yeah, it was something. It was something. So we had to do that. And then right now, let's see what I'm taking. We're taking, actually all three of us, me, Sam, and Phil, are taking the financial management class. And I'm also taking practicum and blanking on whatever sport management class I'm taking right now. But yeah, ethics. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, it just like as you go on and progress, it gets more like in depth in what those different topic areas in sport are.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. And once you get to the 200 level, 300 level, and 400 level in these classes, we give you a lot more say in what you want to do your assignments on. We're a little bit more at the 100 level. This is really what you need to focus on. So Phil, I was wondering if you could talk about the importance of networking in our major and how that sort of separates the pretenders from the contenders.
Right. So, I mean, if you dumb it down, it makes sense. If you're applying to an internship where someone has put your name in, they're immediately going to look at that differently than, a sheet of paper that just has your experiences. Obviously, that's still good. But that's something that I'm going through right now with the US Open. I had contacted someone who works here at Springfield College, and she's volunteered several years at the US Open. So for her to give me a contact, and then for me to then reach out to that contact saying, so-and-so gave me your information, or reach out, they're going to look at that differently and take that to heart more than, someone else who's applying to that internship with all that they have is a piece of paper. So obviously the more people you talk to, the more places open up, and then you can, later down the line, like maybe Chris can help me out or Sam can help me out. You never know who's going to be able to have a say in your journey. So basically just talk to as many people as you can, because it's going to help you.
Yeah, and when you guys get to the practicum class, well, and before it, hopefully you'll have a LinkedIn site set up for yourself. It's really important to brand yourself and show some activity. And the sport management alumni base is pretty vast. Now that does not mean that, and I'm here to be honest with you, I'm not here to sell you on the program. We're here to give you facts about the program. Just because we know a lot of people does not mean you're getting an internship or a job with them. It might mean that you get an interview with them. And then when you get an interview, you got to do your thing, and impress them. But before you impress them, you got to impress the professors. And by doing that, these three guys have all done that in terms of their ability to just be really good in class. But since we're on the subject of the professors, Sam, could you talk about what the relationships are like with the faculty between the students a little bit?
Right, absolutely. So I will be honest with you all that the faculty care about each and every one of their advisees and students that they have in their classes, but they also do not take any crap. They are going to be honest with you, and they're going to tell you what you're doing wrong and how you got to fix it. And if you don't, that's on you. With that being said, every student, I can assure you, has great rapport with their advisee, or at least 3 professors out of the 5 or 6 that are in the department, I believe. So, a lot of it comes down to you get to know your professors very well, and they want to know just as much about you. So I would definitely say the relationships in this department are reciprocal. You have to put in as much effort as you want with your advisee, and they'll give you that much back. If you show up to your advising meetings that are twice a year and you're kind of just like a blank piece of paper and you don't ask anything, you don't engage with your faculty, then you're not going to get anything out of it. And if the faculty do reach out to you and try to engage, that's an edge that this department has, is that the faculty engages with you and they want to know about you. So just to sum it up, they don't take crap, but they want to know how you're doing and where you're going to go someday. They're concerned about you guys. They want you to do well.
And these 3 guys are all going to, you guys are all going to Sloan MIT, is that correct?
Yes, in April. Yeah.
Analytics conference. So if you come in and you do well, you'll get opportunities like these guys are getting. They're going to go to this analytics conference that's in Boston. They're not going, it's going to be virtual. But it's an area that, they need to learn a little bit more about. And they're all been invited to another conference up at UMass just recently. We had limited spots that we could give to our students because we're not running the conference, UMass is. But then when I have to think about who we're going to give, those spots to, it's these guys, and like a few other people. We don't just have 3 really good students in our program. We have a number of good students. But Sam's right. I cannot read your mind. I do not know what you need help with. You need to advocate for yourself. If you don't do that, by the time you're a junior and you come in, hey, I need help with an internship, I'm going to be like, well, how come we haven't been talking about this all along? I have no idea what your interests are. So, we're trying to create relationships with you if we can, but you also got to, you've got to allow us to do that. Remember that this is a private school, so we're not, a majority of the professors are not here to bang out their research. I don't really care that much about it. I care about teaching and advising more than anything. So that's what we're here to do. Is there anything that you guys want to add, Springfield College students, that we haven't really talked about? I mean, there's many things to talk about, but there's limited time. But is there anything that you guys wanted to prepare or discuss with the prospective students?
I have something to add based off what Chris said earlier with the coursework and the classes.
Okay.
What you're going to realize is that basically every single class is going to overlap and they're going to connect in some way, especially as you progress in the major. And I think it's really helpful because once you do put it all together, you can see how it connects and will help you once you actually graduate and do your internship, do your practicum, because they really all do connect. And I think that's great about this, the classes that are offered.
It almost looks like we're doing it on purpose. I can assure you that we're probably not. We probably should be a little better about doing that. Anybody else before we move on to the questions that these folks want to ask?
Yeah, I can add something really quick. Is what separates our students in this department is that we have fun. And that's in the most sincere way possible. It's you hear from all these other students on campus, whether it be athletic training, physical therapy, health science, they're always talking about what's wrong with their major and why they're having such a hard time. But in this major, you can sit in Dr. Borland's class and learn about all the functions that go into running the University of Texas's football stadium, right? And then you can leave class actually feeling like you learned something and you enjoyed it. For example, Chris, Phil, and myself all kind of met each other in Dynamics of Leadership, and we had the most fun I think I've ever had in 4 years worth of college, or 3.5 years worth of college so far. So I can definitely say that we have fun and we know when to work. So that's definitely something that you'll get out of this major for sure.
Yeah, and the pandemic has changed. Oh, did you have something, Phil? I just saw your hand go up there. The pandemic has certainly changed things. Can you guys talk a little bit about what campus life was like before the pandemic, if you can remember, or what it's like to be a student at the college, not so much in the major, but at the college?
Yeah.
Chris, go ahead.
I'll take it. Yeah, well, it's funny to think like just even a year ago, like things were still pretty normal. So before COVID started, I mean, this might sound kind of cheesy, but like one of the things that drew me to Springfield College is just like the people on campus and like the atmosphere that they created, like just like little things of like, you know, you walk by somebody and like you make eye contact with them and you say hi. Like when I was touring other colleges, they, you know, you'd walk by other students and like they wouldn't really look at you, and they'd be on their phones or whatever. And just little things of like, you know, holding the door for you or like just saying please and thank you. Those little things, like to me, I mean, that is like the one thing that I think separates Springfield from like a lot of other places, is just like the people and that atmosphere that it creates.
Anybody want to add anything to that?
There's always
Yeah,
something. Oh, go ahead, Phil. You're good.
Go ahead.
Okay. There's always something to do. At least that's what it was like even a year ago. There was always something to do, whether that be getting you out of your comfort zone or just like doing stuff with your time more than anything. For example, I play the guitar and I have immense stage fright, but what's great about Springfield College is that it gave me the opportunity to get out of my comfort zone and do a talent show. You know, it's opportunities like that that we always had available to us to get out of your comfort zone or do something fun. You know, there's always something to do on campus.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was basically going to say that there's so many things, even during the week, but especially throughout the weekend. And you know, being on campus now, you realize like how much you miss that, and it makes you appreciate all of that human interaction, even in the classroom. Like I only have one class right now that's in person, and you know, luckily I do have one. A lot of people don't even have any, so it really makes you appreciate all the things that we've had these past 2 years.
All right, with that, I'll turn it over to Colin, Tim, and Kristen. What questions do you guys have? This is your time to ask students and get the real truth.
What advice would you give based on your experience in the sports management program so far?
I would say, so if there's one piece of advice is, and this applies honestly, like no matter where you go, is never pass up an opportunity and always have a positive attitude. Like if if an opportunity, I mean, within this program, honestly, it's really not that hard to find like opportunities available. You really don't have to look that hard. So if you just take advantage of those opportunities and like you demonstrate that you're a hard worker and have a positive attitude while you're at it, that's going to get noticed. Like it may not pay off immediately, but eventually somebody's going to notice that. So those are the two big things I'd say.
Sam and Phil, do you want to add to that, or?
Yeah, one thing I would remind all of you is that whether it be in the classroom or finding internships, networking, or just in your daily life here at college, always be one step ahead of whoever it is, right? Whether that be, you know, oh, I don't have time to study. Yeah, you got to make time to do that because in the long run, it's going to pay off for you. So whether that be doing your work, going to the gym and doing something with your time, getting your work done, getting out and meeting people, networking with anyone, always be a step ahead because there's going to be someone that might be a step ahead of you. So just remember that.
I would also say, don't wait. Like as soon as you get onto campus, try and do as much as you can, because again, looking back on it, if I was too laxed or didn't care about opportunities as a freshman or a sophomore, I'd kind of be screwed right now, because the past year, unfortunately, I had internships lined up that were canceled. So you never know like what's going to happen in the future. So take what you can get, as Chris said. take what you can get while it's there, because it's going to pay off.
Yeah, I just want to follow up with what these guys were saying, Colin. Well, one thing that you're going to learn is that you have to do as much outside the classroom as in it, in this major. I mean, we'll tell you what to do, you know, in terms of networking, reading Sport Business Journal, meeting people, getting involved, but we're not going to do it for you. You know, you got to go out and do those things on your own and get some stuff on your resume, but also do a lot of the other thing that will allow you to get some soft skills in terms of communication and things like that. Other questions? Kristen, Timmy, do you have any questions that you'd like to ask students? Colin, would you like to ask another question?
What's been your favorite memory so far?
I would say easily, well, you mean on campus, right? With the
Yeah.
school?
Yeah.
I would say hoop hall last year it was just so fun. Like, all three of us were supervisors, and the amount of work that went into it was insane. Like, we were running on our feet for 8 hours straight. Like, we literally never sat down. But then getting to see everything come together, getting to see the showcase happen, it's just so rewarding. And, you know, you just feel great after it. You know, it's a ton of work, but it's as fun as it gets.
Yeah, I'll say that was my favorite memory too. So that Saturday, Sierra Canyon came to play in like the night game, and they have, you know, Bronny and Junior on the team. So we were all there were like two different shifts of supervisors, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. We were all in the morning shift. So we probably got there at like 7 a.m. and we're there until like 3 p.m. Got like a maybe 1 or 2 hour break, and then we decided to like come back and help out for the Sierra Canyon game. So we were there for like, I don't know, 10 hours maybe. It was long and tiring, but it was really, really fun. You know, I mean, those like in the moment you're like, man, this kind of sucks. Like, you're standing around, you want to sit down, your feet hurt, whatever. But when you look back on it, it's like, yeah, those were some really fun memories for sure. So I think don't take those like times where you're like, man, this really sucks. Like, don't take that for granted, because eventually you'll look back and be like, that was a lot of fun.
I'd probably have to say mine. You know, I could be cliche and say hoop hall, but I'd definitely say dynamics leadership was when I met these two guys here and really got to know them better. And every day after class was a morning class, and we would go to the dining hall and we would just sit down and, you know, and kind of just talk and get to know each other, talk about class. And it's that type of thing that you never forget. I mean, I've been with these guys since the start pretty much. And definitely those days of just going in after walls and grabbing some Cheney was definitely some of my favorite memories for sure. It's all about having fun at that point, you know?
Colin, I'll tell you, one of my least favorite memories is when LeBron James showed up at the hoop hall. Because basically with Sierra Canyon, I don't know if you know much about high school basketball, but they basically came in with their own security team and started basically ordering us around, which was, you know, didn't thrill me very much, because we had a lot of prospective students in that day and we were squeezed on the other side of the arena. So sorry, Del. Hey, you know what? I'm being practical. So we were just, well, you remember that day probably. We were squeezed out on the other because we couldn't go to the other side. But
yeah, they limited the capacity. So normally we literally pack people into Blake like sardines for these games, but they didn't want that many people around, obviously, LeBron. And so it just changed the whole game. But the students ended up just rolling with the punches. The accepted students and their families were literally squeezed behind a pillar. And, you know, they still got to be there. They still got to feel it. But I would say for the guys who are here, who are current students, you know, were you sophomores last year? What year were you been last year?
Yeah, sophomore.
The fact that they led and ran and planned and implemented the largest high school basketball tournament in the country is a pretty cool opportunity as a sophomore in college, which I think is pretty uncommon compared to most other colleges, waiting until your junior or senior year to get that practice.
Yeah, and there's a lot of work to do, Colin, and
I'm not even, I was muted.
oh, sorry.
Sorry. Was I muted that whole time?
No.
Oh, thank God. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No, and I've just, there is a lot of work to do, as these guys talk about. It's a great experience. It's a 5-day showcase, and they get to do a lot of things. They have to work with sponsors. They have to work with teams. They have to do the gritty work, the cleanup and the setup, and it's just a really nice experience. You're certainly not going to get that at any other sport management program that you would get at ours. And I'm kind of half joking about the LeBron James thing. Melanie might have been there when Michael Jordan's wife was there, because Michael Jordan's kid has played there as well years ago. There have been a number of NBA players that have played there. It's interesting that we really have to keep track of the kids in the audience, that we're trying to crowd the players, these high school players, for autographs. So there's a lot of logistics that make it fairly interesting. Kristen, Timmy, do you guys have any questions that you'd like to ask?
What made you choose Springfield over other colleges?
Great question. Sam?
Yeah, I remember when I was in all of your positions, senior in high school, and I came to Springfield College, and I actually had an interview with Delaney. And I just remember I felt so welcomed and so excited to be there compared to any other school, and they didn't even offer that, right? And the minute I knew it was the place to be was when Springfield sent a representative down to my high school, and they showed us everything, anyone who wanted to go. And then I said, oh yeah, I had an interview with Delaney in the admissions office the other week. They're like, what's your name? And I was like, I'm Sam Bradshaw. And they're like, Sam Bradshaw, you got to finish your essay and apply very soon. And I was like, okay. I was like, I better end up going here. At least if they're paying attention to those details, then they got to end up providing some kind of experience that's better than any other school. So definitely remember that you are treated like you belong there. You're not just a number.
Chris and Phil? Chris?
So I would say for me, like one memory that sticks out for me is like when I was on my tour here, our tour guide, like one of her friends, like jumped into our tour, and honestly, I don't remember what he said or I don't remember what he did. Like he was like, talking to the tour guide and kind of like, messing with us in a fun way. And I just remember thinking like how cool that student interaction was, because like that fall I like gone to tour Syracuse, and my group, like my tour was like 25 students walking around like this big campus. I felt like just like a number, and I also went to a pretty big high school, so I wanted to go to like that smaller college. So coming here and just like seeing that student interaction, and like it just made me feel like I actually like be able to make friends and not just be like another person. Like I'd actually be able to get to know people.
Basically building off what both of them said, with being a number, I knew I wanted to go to a small school because not only is it interactive with the students around you, but also with the faculty, which is nice. It's very easy to get in touch with them. Like, I believe it was last week, I just sent Dr. Borland an email. I was like, can we set up a Zoom? And it was as easy as that. And that's something I don't think you get with such a big school. It's a lot harder. And also you don't really know if the professors are, worrying about you as much. Like when you're in a classroom full of 100 people, like, do they even know you're there? No. But when you have an interactive group of around 20 kids in a class, it's a lot easier to build a relationship with those students and the professors as well.
All right. Other questions that you would like to have answered?
What type of effect has COVID had on the program?
A lot.
Yeah.
I'll be blunt about it. It's brutal. The Thunderbirds, part of the AHL, around basically not even 10-minute drive from here, they've been shut down. So I haven't been able to continue working with them. As I mentioned earlier, I had an internship lined up last summer that was canceled. They couldn't bring anyone in. And obviously we're seeing it opening up now more with the vaccine and everything, but it's been really hard because so many organizations have to limit the amount of people that they bring in. So yeah, it's been hard.
Yeah, like Phil said, Thunderbirds, they're not playing. I mentioned earlier, like my practicum at Chicopee, it's pretty much all online. A lot of like in-person, conferences and stuff that we may have like been looking into going to, either online or canceled. So yeah, it's definitely had a pretty big impact for sure.
Sam, do you have anything to add, or do they kind of get all of it?
Yeah, they got pretty much all of it. It's, right now I'm just trying to find a summer job that's sport related with some experience so I can be ready to start my job search in the fall and get my resume ready. And it's been brutal. There is absolutely nothing. There's tight restrictions around here, and that's where I'm trying to find a job. But if you go out to like North Dakota, they don't really have many people out there, and it's not really realistic for me to go out to North Dakota this summer. So it's been brutal in terms of job search, like they're talking about. It's not easy.
We have somebody actually that got an internship. It was Ray Lanzana with the Bismarck Larks, which is like an independent minor league baseball team. I'm like, wow, I think that's South Dakota. I'm not sure, but I think it is. Other questions that you guys might have? Going once, going twice. All right. Delaney, do you want to finish up here, or do you want me to finish up?
I think Colin's got a question.
Oh,
Yeah.
Colin, go ahead.
Yeah, I got one more. What's your favorite class you've taken so far?
Oh gosh, let me get out of here for this one. No. Well, I think 106 was Sam's.
Yeah, probably Dr. Wall or hospitality. we always tended to laugh and joke in that one too. I could talk your ear off for another half hour about some of the crazy scenarios we had to come up with, customer touch points in a courses class. But yeah, probably 106.
I'll say customer hospitality. That was with Professor Corsi. Unfortunately he's retiring at the end of the semester, but yeah, that was fun creating. We had to basically like come up with a like fictional organization and then create a website about it, and then basically present it to Professor Corsi as if he's like a new hire and we're training him to be part of the organization, just to like cover everything about like organizational culture and all that. And yeah, the website was an interesting project for sure.
I would say communications with Dr. Borland, not only because he's on the Zoom, but I actually feel like that was the class that I've learned the most in and have grown the most through. There's a lot of attention to detail. I think I've become a way better writer because of that class and a way better public speaker because of that. And those are skills that you're going to need for the rest of your life, because when you're writing cover letters to apply to internships, that's going to be such a help, because there's so many little attention to details that you don't realize, but that people reading your cover letters are going to pick out. And when they see that you can write well, they're going to be drawn to you.
All right. Del, do you have any housekeeping issues or you want to talk about?
No, I just put in the chat that we'll have our open house. Kensley, I have a dog. We're all working from home, so it is what it is. All right, go ahead, sweetie. So April 11th, it will be a Sunday, and it's actually going to be a very interactive day. So I think this is going to stand out from any other colleges you might be looking at, in the sense that you will have opportunities through some programs we're doing through AirMeet, which is really basically like a actual interactive fair that you can meet clubs and orgs, you can meet different campus partners. You'll get to interact with students throughout the day. It's going to be a lot of small, more intimate type of programs. So I think a lot of these open houses have webinar style. You don't really get to actually talk to real people. So if you are kind of deciding between a couple of schools and you just actually want to continue interacting with people in our community, to get that feeling that I think Chris mentioned about, someone hopping on the tour, and just, that's real. Like, we want, the more times you can interact with students like you are today and with Dr. Borland and different people, you're going to keep feeling hopefully the same thing, which is that we are who we are and this is how our community operates. We're really open, welcoming. We just like getting to know new people. There's no frats and sororities at Springfield, so it's very much just a nice, welcoming environment where you have all these different kind of people you get to know. And if you want to feel that before you end up choosing us, definitely come to that event. Yeah, I'm just really happy that you all were here today. So thank you all for spending the time.
Yeah, and if Colin, Timmy, or Kristen, you have any questions you want me to address, you certainly can find my contact information on our website, which you should look at anyway, our website, and look at our faculty. That's really important. So Del, I will send you the recording, or do you want me to send it to somebody else?
Oh, I emailed you. You can send it right to Liz Godet. Yeah, but thank you.
Sam, Chris, and Phil, thank you very much for telling the students, the prospective students, what they need to know. It was much appreciated. All right. Thank you, everyone. We will see you soon. Hopefully I get to see all three of you guys on campus next year. And I'll see you guys real soon.
Thank
Definitely.
you all.
Take care,
Thank
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.